And welcome everybody. It's good to see everyone tonight. Hopefully, everybody is doing amazing. Got a lot of awesome people in here, and let's say hello to a few of them. All right. Thank you so much for coming, Philip. So good to see you. And Carolyn, it's good to see you too. Welcome in. And Rachel, thank you so much for coming. Welcome to you. And Slow Boy, welcome in. Good to see you. Thank you so much for coming. Miss Nisi, thank you so much for coming in. It's good to see you. Welcome, welcome. And let's see. And Dixie, it's good to see you. Thanks so much for coming in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hopefully everybody's doing all right tonight. I've had a super duper busy last few days. One of the reasons why I didn't get to go do my live stream yesterday was I was actually out in the front yard doing some work on a lawnmower. I've been push mowing for umpteen years, seems like, and my dad gave me a engine to fix my lawnmower, so I drug it out of the weeds and washed it and waxed and cleaned it up and got that thing put together. And by the time I got through with that, it was 7 o'clock, and then I had to come in the house and scramble because at 8 o'clock, Autumn and I actually went under the strawberry moon in a old cemetery and did a live stream. That was so cool. Had a lot of fun. Had a good time. And let's see. Welcome in, Tammy. Good to see you. Thanks so much. As you can see, the little pan that's usually right here, it's gone. It's in the front room full of potatoes. That's what Philip was talking about right here. Those potatoes that we dug. We dug those yesterday too. All right. Welcome in, Daryl. It's good to see you. Thanks so much for coming in. Always, always good to see you. Yeah, me and Dad dug a few potatoes and was out in the garden checking things out. We've already got tomatoes, already that big, and the cucumbers started running. There's a couple of those on there, and corn starting to come in. The watermelons are starting to take off and starting to run, and potato plants are starting to die back little at a time. So as they die back, we just pull them up and dig them up. I think the ones that was on that picture yesterday, that was maybe 4 or 5 plants. It wasn't a lot. Get out of here, cat. But been out there working with those for a while, and been putting the new garden tiller to use, and that the older one too, the one that I fixed, had it going too. So got the gardens tilled before this rain that come in this afternoon. We got some yucky storms coming in from Texas, so that'll be getting here. And of course, the garden's already needing that rain already. It's crazy, but welcome in, Bud Files. Good to see you. Thanks so much for coming in. Welcome, welcome, welcome. But yeah, we had a lot going on, and I was actually going to do the live Tuesday, like a day early, like we did last week. But same thing Tuesday. I didn't get back home until like 7 o'clock, and had a long day. Wednesday we went grocery shopping and had to handle all that good stuff, and then today we were. Let's see. Philip said we can have the storms. They've had enough of them. There we go. I don't know what happened there. Something went crazy. Anyway, I'm back. Sorry about that. Probably storms coming in. This thing's going crazy, but anyway, hopefully we're back here. Yeah, who knows? This stuff gets so touchy sometimes. Who knows? It's crazy. But I found tonight's story looking around, and this one's a pretty cool story. You often hear, uh, spirits that they scare people and run people off or terrorize people, but you never ever hear stories of. Maybe one other time I've heard of one where the spirits are like warning you of something. The gray man on the beaches of Florida, I think, or something. They always, when you see him, there's usually a hurricane right behind him. But the story that we're reading tonight is a ghost saved an entire train full of people. So I guess without further ado, we'll get me off the screen and see what we got. But this story is from an old man's granddaughter. So it says, this is a story that my grandfather told many times. Mostly she heard this one from her mother, though. It says he was a railroad engineer from the 1920s to 1950s. His regular run included sections between Sheboygan and Wantiwak, Wyoming. Many parts of the route had a clear view of Lake Michigan. A girl he knew had drowned in that area. That was, let's see. A girl he knew had drowned in that area that was visible. He often looked at that spot while riding past, often thinking of her fate. No doubt, one night in the full moon, he saw what looked like a female figure standing there, pointing in the direction he was traveling. For some reason unknown to him, he stopped the train, got out, and walked ahead on the tracks. And he found a few hundred yards from where he stopped the train, the rails had came loose. If he would have kept going, he would have wrecked the train, and it would have possibly killed him. Wow. Could you imagine that? Traveling by the spot where one of your friends pass every day and never see anything, and then one night under the full moon, out of nowhere, she appears and she warns him, and he listened to his gut feeling and stopped, and sure enough, the tracks was broken. Who knew what could have happened? That train could have derailed, and if there were passengers aboard it, they could have lost their lives. And trains often have animals and who knows what all on them, and that would have been damaged. So that was really cool story. I really enjoyed that. Let's see if we can't find us another one to get into here. There was another one I was reading here. Quite often I warn, let's see. Dixie says, love those kinds of stories. I like the idea that long gone loved ones are still looking out for us, right? That I like too. It's kind of gives you a peace of mind to know that there's always something or someone out there looking out for you. But I often try to tell people, don't fool around with the paranormal if you don't know what you're doing, because you can get hurt and very quickly. And this one here is of such event. It says this one is a girl's story. Let's see. It says, I have been interested in ghosts for years. I lived in a house built in the 1840s up until I was around 10. Although I don't remember very many strange occurrences there, but there have been a few. So we had an antique piano out in one of the parlors. One night, I heard music. Obviously, it was the piano coming from the front of the house. My sister, who was the only one in the house that could play, was in the room with me. It says I was scared for quite a few minutes, but just disregarded it as a figment of my imagination. In a house like mine, which was complete with underground railroad hiding spots, was easy to get spooked in. Even though I lived there since I was a baby, I didn't like going upstairs by myself, even in broad daylight. The encounter that was the most frightening didn't happen here. It happened when I had been living in a new house in a new development on the other side of town for about a year. Since my parents had divorced, the house was too big for the three of us, and we had no need for the extra rooms. I was at my best friend's house with another friend when it happened. This house was barely 5 years old. It took place in a large living room, much like anyone else's. The three of us were determined to have a seance. We decided to contact Jean Benet Ramsey, the child who had been murdered only weeks before. We had a single candle and in a crystal globe. It was the type of candle you can buy at any store, just a little round one that was red. We lit it with a normal match and started the seance. When we told the ghost to give us a sign if John Benet Ramsey was there, the flame rose and turned bright blue. I was looking around when I heard my best friends gasp. One of them said, "Oh my goodness, look at the flame." My other friend and I saw the bright blue flame, a color pretty close to being royal. We began to scream. The three of us screamed our heads off, only regained our composure to end the seance. We flicked on the lights and embraced each other until we were a little bit less frightened. My goodness. Could you imagine that doing a random seance in a random house, and all of a sudden the flame of the candle shoots straight up in the air and turns a crazy color of blue? Man, that'd be strange indeed. Carolyn says it's very comforting to think that our loved ones are watching over us. Amen to that. Philip says when you're doing something and you get someone tell you don't do it in your head, better listen to that. Let's see. Welcome in, John. It's so good to see you. Thanks so much for coming in. Welcome to you. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank everybody for coming in. All right. We got another one. This one's called Ghosts in Mississippi. It said a lady sent. This is a lady's story. She lived in Jackson, Mississippi at the time. Let's see. Welcome, AT Paranormal. So good to see you. Welcome. But it says this happened to me when I was 15. I was visiting my grandmother one weekend. She lived way out in the country, so there wasn't much to do. I got bored and decided to go for a walk. The sun was setting at the time, and I was halfway down the road. I was passing this old abandoned barn and heard a soft voice. I looked over to the entrance and saw this woman. She was very pretty and motherly like. She had beautiful black hair that seemed to blow in the wind, but there wasn't any wind. She motioned with her finger for me to come to her. I don't know why I did, but I walked slowly to her. When I reached her, she held out her hand as if wanting me to hold it. I looked at the ground, grabbed her hand, and I heard this old, evil-sounding laugh come from her. I looked up and saw that the woman I had came to wasn't the same woman. She had gray hair, rotting teeth, and her eyes rolled back in her head. I screamed and tried to get my hand loose. After I did, I ran back to my grandmother's house as fast as I could run, still hearing the woman's laugh. My grandmother believed every word I told her. She said that happened to my dad when he was about 16. Now, when I go there, I never take walks. I asked her the history about the barn, and she told me that there was an occult that used to go there and do their rituals. The leader was the woman who was killed by other members. Welcome in, Shayna. So good to see you. Thank you for coming in. Welcome to you. All right. Boy, I bet that girl had to be scared absolute crazy. You imagine that? Walking and hearing a lady call your name, and you go to her and grab her hand, and all of a sudden her smile turns to a frown, and her black hair turns gray, and her eyes roll back in her head, and she has that old witch's cackle. Oh my goodness. Whew. I believe I'd have to have a new set of clothes because I'd be running out of them at that point. All you'd see is just a dust trail where I once was, because I'd be running as fast as I could go. Let's see. But Dixie said, "This story is a big note for me. Don't be grabbing me, ghost or not. They'd be in for a fight of their life, right?" Oh, me. I feel you on that one. All right. We'll get into another one. This one's called The Blue Spirit. Okay. This one's from a man in Southern California. A couple of years back, I had an experience that shook me to my core. I can't ever imagine ever getting used to becoming easygoing about such ethereal beings visiting me as some people claim, but they have. As I get older, I'm realizing events of my childhood that were strange, but never did anything about it in particular. My encounter happened late one night in a marina in Delray, California. I had a small one-bedroom apartment. I spent a lot of time home on the computer or strumming the guitar. I've always believed in Jesus as my Lord, and I felt He is always present and closer whenever I call on His name. So it makes me wonder just how nice those beings pretend to be sometimes, like in some of the stories I've heard. I was laying in bed listening to some Eric Clapton through my headphones when I was abruptly shaken. I can't recall, but the being must have not liked music, for the shake was violent. This blue thing hovered about a foot from my face. No noise, no wavering movements, just silence and still hover. Not a lovely experience at 2 in the morning, and everything is pitch black. It seemed to be a royal blue electric like presence with a very defined outline, and it really meant business. It was very confusing for me at first. I had the feeling that it was trying to show me something or tell me something. It waved its bluish hand towards itself. I can't say it was angry or happy or definitely not inviting. The hand was very much a human hand, but electric blue. I could not believe my eyes. A raw fear took over that I never felt before, quickly following by a cry for strength from the Lord. This helped get rid of my fear, and it was gone almost instantly, in a blink of an eye, just gone. I can't tell you how fast I ran to my living room with all the lights clicking on along the way. Sitting on my couch as quiet as a church mouse, thinking about what just happened to me and wondering if I had ever had an experience close to that, so that I could dismiss what just happened to me. But no dice. This thing was real. I held on my ground. It's my territory, and sorry, pal, I thought. I just paid the rent, so I'm staying. Since then, I sleep on my side, and I don't like sleeping on my back. if I can help it, because I don't appreciate apparitions or blue beings, if you will, just popping in front of my face like that. It says, talk about heart attack. I wonder how many people go through stuff like this and never utter a word. Wow. Could you imagine that? My goodness. Waking up and something blue right in your face. Wow. All right, let's see. Barbecue frog legs are good. Says just like chill and fried eggs, just like buffalo wings. Welcome in, Janet. So good to see you. Thank you so much for coming in. Appreciate it. Welcome to you. Says good job on jumping straight into the prayer on that story. That's the best way to go with something like that, right? Sometimes when things are out of your control, that's the best way to do it. Just jump in there and say, Lord, help me get through this. And, best way to get through it. Especially when you're battling things, health issues and scary moments, tragic moments. The only way to get through it is to, ask the Lord to help you. So, man, these stories tonight's been like extra creepy. But all right, pop the computer back on, and I think maybe next live stream I'm going to start digging into. I bought this BuzzFeed Unsolved Supernatural 100 True Tales of Hauntings, Demons, and the Paranormal. Thought about digging into some of these stories, because it gets into, I figure what I'll do is, some of these places that are located in the mountains of Appalachia, digging into them, like just opened it here, The Ghosts and Demons of Bobby Mackey's Music World. It kind of tells the history of the place, what happened there. And then there's also questions and comments people that had left, and they included those in here. I believe there's a few experiences that people's had in there. And I thought about, maybe kind of like we do our videos, find a location and get into the stories, do the history of the place, and then maybe some strange things that people's had. That is, unless somebody has right. I don't think anybody likes demonic stuff. That's for sure. I sure don't. I don't want nothing to do with it. Philip says, get a spirit box and go to a cemetery and talk to spirits. Well, if you're interested in that, my wife's channel is Myers Paranormal. That kind of stuff is over there. I kind of separated that from this channel because I know there's a lot of people that do not like it and they don't want anything to do with the paranormal. So, and we live in Appalachia, so covering history of Appalachia and all that, that's what this channel is. And if you like that kind of stuff, you can go over there and check that out, because we literally did just that under the strawberry moon last night. So It is Myers Paranormal. That channel is how we got started. Myers Tells Appalachia is actually our secondary channel. Uh, I started this one for two reasons. There were people, they're like, we really want to support you guys, but we do not like the paranormal. It's against our beliefs. And, I respected that. And I was like, well, maybe we can create a place for those people to come. And of course, being over there as part of Jared King's chat, Jared King TV, doing the storytelling and everything. And storytelling runs in my family. So I figure, what the heck, let's try this. And so far it's worked. So, we just, her channel, we do the paranormal communicating and all that. And on this channel, we do the stories. And I know a lot of people's like, do you ever do any stories that's not ghost related? Well, we do, but they're not common because unfortunately the good stuff is not as documented as the bad stuff is. There's complete websites dedicated to paranormal experiences and all that, and there's so many stories that are available that can be shared, and the good stories, news spreads further and bad news spreads even further. So yeah, Bobby Mackey's place is being torn down. It's probably torn down now, but so that's another way to keep history alive. Places that are long gone, they've been torn down and they've been forgotten. We can share their story, the history that happened there, and what it used to look like. And something sad that kind of really tugged at me the other day. Just up the road, there's a cemetery that my great grandfather, his wife, and his kids and their kids are actually buried at. There is a church that was built in the 1820s, and it is still standing. It's not used, but it is still standing there, and it's still fully intact. And the other day, the storm kind of tore off a piece of tin from it, but the groundskeeper of the cemetery was saying that told someone he may just tear that old thing down because it's not good for anything. And I'm just like, man, that's history. 1800s churches, they're starting to become hard to find. They're really disappearing. I told them, I'm like, please tell him don't tear that down. I'd like to see it put on a what do you call it? National Register of Historic Places. But to save it, so that so it would be preserved. But that's a lot. What's happening to a lot of places is people's like, oh, that old place, that's not nothing, and they tear it down, not realizing that the significance, that the history that went on there is, that place had. So let's see. As an owner of a barn built in 1881. Yeah, they are. Old barns are definitely money pits. It's hard to keep them alive. I know that. But this church it's made out of block. It was block, and it's sealed up very well. The roof doesn't leak or anything. So it's not used. It's just sitting, but I don't think it's costing any money really. So hopefully they don't tear it down. But like an old barn that's built out of wood, that's constantly rotting and everything. But who knows? Hopefully they'll keep it going. And uh, people's always taking donations up for things. Take up, maybe start a nonprofit or something. Keep things going. Let's see. Comes down to money. The house I grew up in was built in 1830. Wow. That's an old house. But I know home places and stuff, it's real hard to keep them up. Like, those really old cabins that was built in the 1800s that was built out of wood that was like the chestnuts, those things will be there for a long time. Yeah, sure enough, them things were built very well. And the ones, the people that have the money and they preserve these places, I have a lot of respect for them. I've seen people take some of the older manors and mansions and turn them into like bed and breakfasts just for the money to keep them alive. They put them on Airbnbs where you can rent it for a simple night, and that helps keep the upkeep on it and everything, keeps it in use. And places that just sit not getting used, they rot down so fast, seems like. So they added knob and tube wiring in the 20s. Wow, that's 105 years ago. That's crazy. And it costs so much to keep up, even new houses. But like I said, as many places as that can be preserved, I'm so glad that they do. Because the more history that we can save. Let's see. So you have a spirit hanger on the wall behind you. Yeah, I'll turn the camera this way. That's kind of a little nod to our Cherokee Indian that's in my family. All those dream catchers, those are all autumns. Got all kinds of pictures. That picture that's right there in the top left, I actually painted that. It's kind of, part of it's kind of covered up by autumn stuffed animals, but yeah, she absolutely loves those things. Let's see. Also lowers tax assignment by $14,000 as it is a heritage barn. Well, dang, that's awesome. Yeah, we kind of pay homage to our Native American. I'm not that much. I know my mother was registered in Lakota Cherokee, and she had a native name, but I was never registered. Never could figure out how to get registered either. I wish we could, but I like to do one of those DNA tests to show how much you have. Let's see. Shana says, I'm proud of my Cherokee blood from New York, mama's side of my family, right? My mother was born in Peoria, Illinois. That's where she was from. And of course, I'm only about a mile from where I was born at. So hope Hope was born pretty much here, I think. This the house we're living in now is where we've been at the whole time. And what you like more? Cherokee items. My late husband was half Eastern Bond Cherokee and half Powhatan. That's cool. Oh, absolutely. We love Cherokee items. Uh, says Jesus' blood makes us kinfolk. Amen to that. And my sixth grandpa was an Indian who was killed by whites for marrying his white woman in Kentucky. That's sad. Um, don't do a DNA test to sign away any rights to your DNA. It says, I hear ya. I have some Cherokee on my dad's side and some Creek on my mom's right. Creek was from Georgia a lot. Um, I have some really cool stuff. My father was out walking the fields and he came across a little rock bowl about this big and it had paint in it still. It was like had like dark, either black or blue paint that they'd put the stripes on their face before they would go out on a battle or whatever. We have that, and I found, like a left-handed grindstone, and then I have all kinds of stuff that I have arrowheads. I don't have it up right now, but I've actually made two. Yeah, I do. That see, where's it at? Right there. I actually handmade that one. That one has a branch from a sycamore tree inside of it. And I used yarn. I wrapped yarn around it, and it's white yarn with like a blue yarn, and it has white beads. I might go get it. Give me a second. Yeah, I handmade this. And these beads right here are actually from the same sycamore tree that's inside the hoop. And these are just white chicken feathers. Yeah, I handmade this thing long time ago. I even handmade those beads too. Oh. And this, I know you're talking about Nordic. This is a kilt pin. And I actually handmade one of these out of iron that I forged myself. But I'll have to find it. I have no idea where it is. I've got it somewhere, but I heated up some steel and hand hammered and curled the little ends and everything and put the twist in it. And it's for keeping your, the had like a sash and it had a pin that went across it. And so, yeah, I think I'm a mutt too. I've got Irish and all kinds of stuff. Found arrowheads, but I always leave them where I find them. Yep. There, man, I wish I could have found that story again. I actually literally found a story that I was going to read, but I lost it. A man was out digging in the garden and found one and brought the arrowhead inside the house. And they, ever since that happened, they had the sounds of people walking in and out of the house, just all this stuff. And they took it back and it went away. Welcome in, Karen. So good to see you. You're good. No need to apologize. But also, I was told this story by my father There was just around the corner from his house, there was a Native American, uh, the daughter of a Native American chief, had passed away. I believe she died from sickness or something. And when she was buried in like almost like a what they would wear when they got married. They had the full headdress and everything, and uh, had all sorts of beads and trinkets and things that she was buried with. And a person had bought the property where she was buried at, and it was told that every time anybody would go around her grave, she would appear before them and tell them to leave the spot and don't, leave her be. And well, he decided that it was his land and he would do what he wanted to. Well, he was told to have dug the grave up and took all her little trinkets and stuff that she was buried with because he saw dollar signs. Well, he took them in the house, and that night when he was asleep, she appeared before him and told him that if he messed with her grave again, that he wouldn't be able to do it again, that she would do terrible things. And well, he got up the next morning and all his trinkets that he dug up was gone. He went back to her grave and they were back in her grave. Well, he took them again. And the next time, that later that afternoon, she appeared in the house and she threw him through the door and told him that she had warned him. And needless to say, he packed up all his stuff and he left, and he never did go back. And to this day, I don't think anybody ever has went back. It says, I call that respectful. I worked on the museum returning ancestors to their tribes. Right? Yep. Nisi says, I've got Scots blood. So proud my family line traced back to Robert the Bruce. Wow. That's cool. Let's see. Well, you have a good one. Thank you so much for coming in. It's always good to see you. But that's right. Don't bother what don't belong to you. The only way that I would ever consider picking up something like that would be to preserve it, to keep it from getting damaged. Like if it's in a field that's getting worked, somebody's going to be plowing, I would probably pick it up then, but I would do something respectful with, whether leave it on a mantle or something or put it on display, but I would never do anything to, disrespect it. That's for sure. Here, they were digging the footings for the new bridge that they were building, and as they would bring up bucket loads of dirt from the bottom, to pour the concrete and everything, there was all sorts of Native American things, and when they disposed of the dirt, they put it in all in one area, and then it's fenced off and it's protected, and if you're caught over there nosing around picking up anything, it's like an automatic prison term. So I thought that was kind of cool the way that they did that. But I was told we visited back about a week or two ago, we visited a cemetery. The church and the cemetery are on this hill. And I always thought, this hill's strange looking. It almost looks like an Indian burial ground. And apparently, that's exactly what it was. When they moved the Indians from our area, the March of the Trail of Tears, they built a church right on top of the burial grounds, desecrating it, and then buried their own on top of it. And to me, that is, it's disrespectful and sad, but that's just how things were back in the day. But, well, folks, I want to thank each and every one of y'all for coming out tonight and hanging out and getting to talk and hang out with you guys and sharing some of these strange tales that I've found and reminiscing about history and our native Americans, just having a whole good time. Um, Getting to talk about our native history and where we came from and our ancestors. Of course, the strange stories too, but I always getting to enjoy getting to hang out with you guys and hang out, just have a good time. And I always say a special thank you to our people that come back and watch after the live. We appreciate them too, and always grateful to Jan. She's always so kind, and she don't always, sends donations to the cash out, and that's so kind. We never expect that of anybody. Don't want anybody to ever feel like they're required to send anything to anybody, because that's just not how this works. We do our stuff for free. I'm not monetized on this channel, not yet. I don't know if I'll ever be. We may not be. We'll just, we'll see. We're actually knocking pretty doggone close to 1,900 subscribers. I was looking at that earlier. We're at 1,857 folks, family members. And that still blows me away today, thinking about all these people that from all over the world that don't know, me from Adam, but they come in and we all hang out and have a good time and fellowship and share stories and just have a good old time. And you can't beat that. Nothing like family time. So anyway, guys, thank y'all so much for coming. We absolutely love each and every one of y'all. And until next week, we'll see you later. Bye, guys.